Okay. Sharing your entire screen or browser window can cause an infinity mirror. Stop presenting. So they don't want that. Yeah. Can you see the slides?
No, sir, not yet.
Huh. So, I got a word clock here. Let's see that. All right. It was visible earlier. Let's see.
Swati madam.
Yeah, Nupur.
Yeah, may I intervene?
Yeah, you can help us,
Yeah.
please.
Sir, Professor Hock.
Yeah.
Sir, you just keep the PPT or PDF open, and then in the presentation mode, you will get share screen or share window. So that window will be your PPT or PDF, sir.
Yeah, not to share window. That's what I have right now.
Niranjan, sir is able to share, but what sir wants is both the screens together. See, now I think sir has joined from another device. So he wanted to see the audience and his PowerPoint.
I mean,
Yeah,
that's
now
not
it's
the problem.
now it is.
Can you see the slides now?
It is we can see that multiple infinity window kind of a thing. So sir needs to keep it open, is it?
Yes, that PPT or PDF, whatever sir is presenting, that window should be kept open.
Okay.
If it is minimized, then it will not show in the Google Meet.
Yeah, well, I have the windows open. I wonder whether I should, yeah.
We are able to see two screens now, sir. That is there. We are able to see you, and we are also able to see your screen. But on the screen, this is reflected like. We are not able to see the PPT.
Okay.
Sir, that for PPT,
Yeah, I'm in. Maybe the problem lies in my using Safari. Maybe I have to go to Google Chrome. For a browser.
Sir,
Let me try that.
Sir, you may see the instruction there. Sharing your entire screen or browser window can cause an infinity mirror. So instead of that, you just have to share a window.
So he needs to stop sharing, is it? He needs to stop sharing, Upur.
Yes, now he may stop sharing it and share the window. That window will be the PPT or the PDF, whatever sir plans to
let's see.
put.
Where are we again here? No. Okay, turn off camera. Stop presenting. Let me see. Okay, let me see now. Present now. So share a screen or share a window? Which one should I take?
Share a window, sir.
Okay. Let's see now whether this will work. Can you see the slides?
We cannot.
All right.
Share
Then
back to the Google Meet, you will find that window in the Google Meet share option.
yeah, the problem is I can't get that without leaving this. Okay. No, this is not working. So let's see. I think I should try Chrome maybe as a browser. Maybe that's the problem. Okay. Let me quit here for a moment and see.
So you're on unmute. Can you please unmute your mic?
Ravi, I think, have you done it from here? Just check.
Do that.
So please, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Now let's see the presentation. Can you see the presentation?
I don't believe so.
Can you see the slides?
Not yet, sir.
No, they're not visible.
No, sir, not visible.
All right, let's see what's happening here. Present now. Okay. Window. Acrobat. Share. It doesn't let me do the presentation.
Not yet.
Yeah, it doesn't let me do the presentation. All right, let's see.
So is the presentation open on the Google Chrome itself?
Yeah, sorry?
Is the presentation on Google Chrome?
No, it's on Acrobat.
You can share your entire screen under presentation and then go to the presentation. That's how it will present.
I can do what?
Present your entire screen. As soon as you click the present option.
Yeah, I've got the screen up. Yeah. However,
Earlier, I had tried to see.
it says can't share the screen.
I'll just check if you had. We have put you as a host, sir. So you should be able to do.
Ma'am, Swati ma'am, otherwise sir can send the presentation, ma'am, so we can try from here.
Could you do that, sir?
Sir can WhatsApp us, so we can try.
Okay.
No, but I think we may try, I think we can resolve the matter. Sir, you keep the presentation open. You don't have to go to the presentation mode. Just keep the window open and then come back to the Google Meet, and there present now, you will get that option. Share the window, and that window will be your PPT or PDF, whatever you're planning to present.
Sir has a PPT board.
Yes. That's what
Madam
it's trying. Share the
Swati
window.
madam. Otherwise, SAR PPT is sent to Ravi. Ravi can operate to from here.
Yes.
That's all. That's also possible.
Yeah.
Yes,
If not possible.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir. We can do that.
Yeah, Ravi can operate from here.
Sir, shall we post our number in the group and in the chat? Should I post in the chat, or will you be able to send it to me?
I will. Okay, I can send the presentation to you.
In the mail?
Yeah. Okay, let me see. I can do that. Let me get out of this for a moment. And then let's see now. Okay. I have to find the. This is a. Getting there.
Yeah, I'm just checking, sir.
Okay. Top slides. Put it back in here. Okay. hope it gets through. It's 17.1 megabytes. Shit. Sorry. Do it again. Okay, one more time.
Swati ma'am, please check your email.
Yeah, I kept it open, Dr. Lavanya.
Okay, I've sent the slides.
I'm just refreshing again and again to make sure it is coming.
Yeah, the slides are on their way.
Okay.
Okay. And I will just then present here. Okay. So yeah, the slides are on their way. They're PDF.
Not yet received, sir.
Okay.
What we can do, Dr. Lavanya, sir, in the meantime, shall we just begin the program and then the introduction part, shall we just start with that?
Yes, Swati ma'am.
Yeah.
So shall we start, ma'am? Then.
So we have about
Osmania University, Telangana, India, and also on behalf of Department of Linguistics, Department of History, and Department of Ancient Indian History, Culture and Archaeology, feel it as a privilege to welcome you all to this international multidisciplinary webinar on migrations, archaeology, genomics, and Indo-European prehistory by eminent Professor Hans Henrich Hock from Department of Linguistics, University of Illinois. Sir, we welcome you, sir. Really, we are honored by your presence. Now, I request Dr. Swathi ma'am to kindly introduce our eminent speaker to us.
Thank you, Dr. Lavanya. So once again, welcome to the program, sir. It is a welcome address that I am just giving. So Dr. Balu will be introducing our speaker today. And I would like to welcome all the participants to this program. We have our principals are also shortly joining, sir. Professor Saida Talat Sultana, and she's also Dean of Faculty of Arts. We also have Professor Satish Chandra, Dean Faculty of Social Sciences, joining shortly. And I also welcome all the participants to this program. We have from all over India, sir, who are participating in this program. We have research scholars, we have senior faculty. I have seen one of our faculty also joining from the US. So they're spread all over the world that we have the participants. So coming to today's webinar, so as you all know, today we are having an interdisciplinary and very important webinar. So this is on the linkage that happens between linguistics, history, and archaeology. So this webinar is all about how we are going about the finding the history of the Indo-European language. Specifically, Dr. Hans Hock will be talking on the migration that is happening in and the evidence that genome research has given. So once again, I invite you, sir, to this program. On my personal behalf, I thank you for accepting our invitation and doing this program for us. So thank you so much for joining. Now I request Dr. Balu to introduce sir.
Good evening, one and all. A warm welcome to our distinguished guests, esteemed colleagues and students. It is a great honor to introduce Professor Hans Henrich Hock, Professor Henrich Hock, who is a renowned eminent scholar in linguistics, having vast experience of teaching research with academic qualification of he did master MA linguistics from Northwestern University, PhD linguistics from LA University, DLit from Deccan College of Postgraduate and Research Institute. He is a professor, research guide, external examiner of linguistics and Sanskrit of the classics of Germanic languages and literature, and in the campus honor program Emirates in 2000. He was so many editor for Folica Linguistic Historica publication of Societia Linguistica Europea. So many books are authored and edited books. His area of research interest are general historical and comparative linguistics, all areas, comparative and diachronic syntax of Indo-European languages, especially Sanskrit, Indo-Aryan, Germanic, and Latin. Sanskrit linguistics, synchronic and diachronic syntax, phonology, language contact, social linguistics, Vedic, modern spoken Sanskrit, convergence phenomena, clitics, prosody, and phonology or syntax interface. Identify the moment and linguistics. Sir, he is a visiting professor and lecturer and faculty of various colleges in India. Also, keynote speaker, invited speaker, and conferences participated in USA, Thailand, and India. He taught various subjects like general historical linguistics, introductory advanced seminars, diachronic phonology and syntax, Introduction to Indo-European Linguistics, Sanskrit language and linguistics, Vedic, and so many are there. He has served at various positions from prestigious organizations, few of which are Director 98 to 2004 program, a South Asian Middle Eastern Studies Acting Director. Director is a Linguistics Institute of Linguistic Society of America, Associate Director, Center for Asian Studies, 1982-83, Acting Associate Director, Center for Asian Studies. Next, he is the member in Learned Society, American Oriental Society, Linguistic Society of India, Societas Linguistic Europea, Linguistic Society of so many. He is versed various languages included German, English, Sanskrit, Hindi, French, Italian, Spanish, good, and Northern and Swedish, Danish. Sir has the brief introduction with I couldn't read. Sir has so many authored books and everything there, but I can't read out, sir. And now I would like to welcome to Professor Henrich Hock on behalf of Department of Linguistics and Department of History and Ancient Indian History, Culture and Archaeology, member of organized committee to take over, sir. Thank you, sir. I over to you.
Thank you. Shall I start then?
Yes, sir. I have just received the.
Let me begin by thanking you for inviting me to give this talk. And I hope that the slides have come in the meantime.
Yes, sir. Yes, they have come.
Okay, so I hope whoever does the slides is able to follow my going through them. I think it should be pretty straightforward. So, as I said, my talk will be on migrations, archaeology, genomes, and Indo-European prehistory. Let me start by talking about the, the issues. Around 1000 BC, there were Indo-European languages found all the way from Xinjiang and India in the east and to in Ireland and Anatolia in the west and in the south. So the prevailing view is that the original homeland must have been a much smaller area. So the question then is, where was it? And of course, we have to assume that the later distribution must result from migrations. But the idea of migration has become controversial, and the location of the original home is a matter of dispute, with presently two main theories. One, the so-called Anatolian theory, placing it in present-day Turkey. The other one, the steppe theory, placing it in a large area ranging from present-day Ukraine into Kazakhstan.
So just...
Yes.
Ravi, have you received the slides? Just a... Or if he is a little bit busy, I can do it, no problem. Because I'm not seeing his. Yeah, he's come. Did you receive, Ravi? I'm seeing that there is a problem in connection in his.
I'm on slide number 16 now.
Oh. Just one moment, sir. Just one moment.
Shall I try, Swathi?
Could you open, Ravi? Yeah, I'll do that then, if he's not able to do.
Yeah, the display doesn't work, so I sent you the slides, if you can display them there.
I'm just opening, sir.
Yeah.
Can you see the slides?
Yeah, I can see them here, yes.
Yeah, I'll have to make it as full presentation mode, I think.
Yeah, I can't scroll through them on my screen.
Yeah, yes, sir, just opening.
So I'm on slide number 16 now.
Just 1 minute, sir.
We can see the slides, no problem with that.
Yeah, okay. Slide number 16.
Yeah, just 1 minute. I'm going to the slide number 16. I think you were talking about this. So
yeah, that's already talked here. I'm slide number 16.
Yes, sir.
There, there we are. Okay, yes. So what I'm going to talk about now is what can linguistics, archaeology, and genomics contribute to this debate? So let me first start with the question of the issue of migration. That's the next slide. And the next slide is historical migrations of speakers of languages are well attested. We typically talk about the migrations of languages, but we have to remember that it's speakers of languages that move. For instance, we know about Latin in the Roman Empire, which started in a small area of present-day Italy, spread over a larger surrounding area, covered all of Italy eventually, and eventually much of Western Europe. Similarly, there was the expansion of English, starting from England through settler colonialism, spread to North America, South Africa, Australia, New Zealand, and through extractive colonialism to many other areas, including South Asia. But so we know that historically that migrations spread languages, but migration has got a bad reputation because of the so-called Nordic expansion theory of the Nazis and the precursors. So now I'm coming to slide 29, which gives you a view of a map which was shown in Nazi school books for children, illustrating their belief or their claim that the Indo-Europeans, the so-called Aryans, moved out of Northern Europe into the rest of the world. Now, in reaction to this, there was an important paper by Adams and cohorts called The Retreat of Migrationism, where they raised questions about the application of migration to historical developments. And this has been picked up by archaeologists. So, for instance, Schaefer and Lichtenstein have argued that language can disperse independently of human movement via stimulus diffusion. And Lambert-Karlowski argues that migrations, once a fashionable explanation for cultural divergence, have in recent years lost their appeal. We are now coming to slide 33. But the important thing is that languages are not cultures or artifacts or just words which could spread by stimulus diffusion. Languages are complex structural systems that can only be learned from actual speakers. And for this to happen, speakers have to move. Even Adams and cohorts in his paper accepted migration as an explanation for the spread of languages. And just to give a few more illustrations, many linguistic distributions can only be accounted for through migration. So here's a map of Europe, of Western Europe, with the Uralic languages in black. And you can see that there is Hungarian circled in the middle, which is separated by thousands of miles from the other Uralic languages further to the north. We know in this case that the Hungarians migrated to the area because historical records tell us so. In other cases, the situation is less clear. These are the so-called Algic languages, of which one small group is found on the west coast of the present-day United States, and somebody must have moved to create this separation between the different branches of this language family, but we don't know who moved because we don't have access to the history of these languages deep enough in time. At any rate, somebody must have migrated. And the uniformitarian principle should preclude the assumption that migrations can only occur in recent history, or only when we have direct evidence for migration. So I would say that migration has to be accepted as a method of explaining historical distribution of languages. But at the same time, it doesn't require large numbers of speakers to transplant a language. I'm now at slide 48. For instance, Turkish is a Central Asian language. So its speakers came from Central Asia, but only about 3.4% of the Turkish population can be traced genetically to Central Asia. Now, turning now to migration accounts for Indo-European. Many early accounts are based on a priori assumptions and problematic theories. One of these is the biblical view that Noah's Ark landed in Western Asia, and therefore all languages must have migrated from there. This was what William Jones believed. Others believe that the Latin maxim ex oriente lux, the light comes from the east, so languages have to have come from the east. And also many considered Sanskrit to be the ancestor of the Indo-European languages. This again argued for the idea that the Indo-European languages originated on the eastern periphery of the present-day distribution. And this requires the often implicit assumption of an east-west migration. We are now at slide number 55, which gives you some of the early views on the origin of Indo-European, with the one in the Turkish area, Western Asia, being William Jones. The rest are farther east. Around the middle of the 19th century, Eastern Europe comes to be proposed based on the gratuitous identification of Aryans as light-skinned. And these proposals require centrifugal migrations. So we have here some of the proposals for a more European-centered origin. And then from the late 19th to the early 20th century, in the time of the Nazis, Northern Europe is proposed, based on what are called cultural and Aryan arguments, all of which are pretty a priori and without much foundation. These posit north, south, and west-east migrations and locate the home as indicated in slide 61. And we get back again to that map, which the Nazis incorporated into the textbook for children, pushing the theory that the Aryans, so-called, originated in the north of Europe. Now, some of the Central European or Nordic theories do in fact draw on linguistic arguments, so they cannot be immediately dismissed. But the arguments are problematic, and it's interesting to look at these to understand what is problematic about these arguments. I take the best known of these arguments, the beech tree hypothesis. Now, the underlying methodology, I'm on slide 66 now, is what has been called linguistic paleontology. The notion that if we can reconstruct a word for some notion X or entity X, then the ancestral speakers must have had X in the environment. Otherwise, why have the word for it? Now, if archaeology points to an area where X is found, and there's no other area with X, then we can infer that the ancestral speakers must have lived in that area. This is slide 68. In principle, this is a sensible approach, but in practice, there can be many problems. We can see this with the case of the beech tree controversy. The claim is this, that we can reconstruct a word for beech tree, a tree with edible nuts, based on the evidence of Latin fagus, beech tree, Old High German burcha, Old English beech tree, and Greek pagos, oak with edible acorns. Now, the phonological correspondences between these words permit the reconstruction pagos. Now, further, beech trees are claimed to have occurred in Central Europe, and here we have a map of the current range of beech trees, but the idea was at the earlier period it was farther north. So the conclusion then is that the original home of the Indo-Europeans must have been near or in the area of Central Europe. Problems with this are multiple. First of all, there's the question whether we even should reconstruct the word pagos for Indo-European. It's found in only 3 neighboring language areas, and therefore the suspicion arises that it may be a regional innovation, which was not part of the Indo-European heritage. Now, if we do reconstruct, there's still the question, what should be the meaning? What the beech tree proponents argued for is that it must have been beech. But why not edible, an oak with edible acorns? Or just a large tree with edible nuts? The further issue is that there is an Indo-European verb, bhag, to partake of, to eat, which is found in Sanskrit bhaj, partake of, eat, Greek pagain, to eat. Bhagos could thus be derived from this root bhag to designate a tree with edible nuts, once speakers came in contact with such trees. Therefore, there is no reason to reconstruct the word for Indo-European. There are also chronological and geographical problems. At the time of about 3000 BC, roughly maybe the time that Proto-Indo-European may have been spoken, the beech tree area is much farther south in Europe. Moreover, there is another beech tree area, we're in slide 96 by now, another area to the east, which ranges farther south and to the east and locates the home of the Europeans way away from the Central European area that the original proponents of the theory had envisioned. So the conclusion must be that the hypothesis is dubious and cannot be used to locate Proto-Indo-European. So let me now turn to 2 main hypotheses which are current. We're on slide 99, namely Anatolia versus the steppes. I'll start with the steppe hypothesis. Here we have evidence of language. Namely, first of all, that all subgroups of early Indo-European have words for horse that are reconstructible to a common ancestor, hekwas, or kwas, with the vowel in the first syllable optionally being absent. And I'll show you reflexes of these in slide 104 and slide 105. In addition to that, all languages except the Anatolian branch, including Hittite and such languages, have 2 words for wheel that can be reconstructed. These are given in slide 107. Finally, there is also largely textual evidence for the use of 2-wheeled single-axle battle chariots. We see in some cases that the original word for wheel has been repurposed to refer to such chariots or wagons. We see this in slide 109. And the comparable situation in modern English would be when people refer to a nice car as having nice wheels. There's in addition evidence for battles involving two-wheeled battle chariots in Homer's Iliad and elsewhere in early Indo-European. There's also, now it turns out that the linguistic evidence dovetails well with the evidence of archaeology. The earliest evidence for horse domestication comes from the early 4th millennium BC from the Eurasian steppes, Terevka in Ukraine, Botai in Kazakhstan. And slide 113 shows you the location of these and shows that this is a pretty vast territory. The evidence for domestication of horses partly includes the abrasion of the premolar by the wearing of bits. So the horses were bitted for better control. In addition, we have the evidence of residue of mare's milk on potsherds in around from 3500 BC coming from Kazakhstan. As far as wheels are concerned, they appear around 3500 BC in the vast area without there being any clear evidence of an origin of a distribution or spread of this from one area to others. This map on slide 117 shows with its various dots the various places, not even including South Asia, in which wheels appear at the same time, roughly 3500 BC. The earliest evidence for two-wheeled battle chariots plus horse burials comes from about 2000 BC in Sintashta in the Eurasian steppes. And map 119 shows you the location of Sintashta close to the border with Kazakhstan. Slide 120 gives you a view of the construction of this tomb. Up on top are two horses. These are the horses which have pulled the chariot. Below that is the buried warrior, presumably, or chieftain. And at the bottom is an early form of a two-wheeled battle chariot. Wikipedia, everybody's favorite source of information, slide 121, illustrates the spread of the chariots out of the steppes. The general picture is accurate, the dates are off. At any rate, there's evidence that chariot spread parallels the spread of Indo-European languages. So, for instance, in Mycenae, early Greece, we find the earliest attestations of Greek, but also the earliest iconography of two-wheeled battle chariots, slide 124, and also 125, and also horse burials with two horses, slide 126. We also find quite early, in 1400 BC, an image of the two-wheeled battle chariot in the extreme north, in present-day Denmark. That is the Trundholm Sun Chariot. Finally, on the other extreme of the area, we find in the area near the Khyber Pass a cover of a funerary urn from about 17th century BC from the Swat Valley, and also evidence of horse burials. This is slide 131. So if we extrapolate from this information, we can say that the Proto-Europeans must have dwelled in the Eurasian steppes at or near the area where horses were domesticated in the early 4th millennium BC. I emphasize near the area because we can't be sure they were in fact the ones who domesticated the horse. It may have been another group and the Europeans took it over from them. At any rate, this is the only area with enough wild horses to be domesticated, other than the Iberian Peninsula, slide 135. But the steppes are the only area that show evidence of horse domestication at that early period. The Iberian Peninsula does not. So we can also then conclude that if wherever the Indo-Europeans might have migrated from the steppes, they must have taken horses along that were domesticated, because where they went, there were no wild horses to domesticate. This holds true too for the Anatolians, Hittites, Luvians, and so forth. They must have brought domesticated horses with them to Anatolia, as shown by the Luvian word atsuma, horse. We can also conclude that the Indo-Europeans must have picked up the horse and chariot culture in the Eurasian steppes at or near Santashta, early 2nd millennium BC. Again, I emphasize near because we can't be sure that they were the ones who developed the use of horse and chariots. And we then have to assume that as they migrated to other areas, they seem to have brought the chariot culture with them. The Anatolians may not have participated in this. They may have left too early for this development. At least the linguistic evidence does not suggest that they had the horse and chariot culture before they migrated to Anatolia. At any rate, the evidence of the chariot culture, slide 143, strongly supports the view that the Indo-European languages spread through centrifugal migrations of their speakers from the Eurasian steppes. Let me now look at the Anatolian hypothesis. This is the major rival hypothesis. It started with the evidence of archaeological evidence, namely the spread of agriculture from Anatolia to Europe and much of Asia. Here, Renfrew was the major proponent. To this was added more recently genomic evidence, which shows that the spread started around 6,500 BC, or 8,500 before present. Slide 148 shows a rough, gives a rough idea of this spread. Linguistic arguments were added by a group around Atkinson. I refer them to Atkinson et al. This is based on the characteristic approach, which was developed in genomics, but then transferred to language and linguistics, applied to lexical data, and accompanied by inferred or guessed at rates of lexical change. The basic prior assumption is that the root of the linguistic tree is to be found in the area of greatest archaism, slide 154. That is, that the original home must be coincidental with the placement of the most archaic language of the family. And since the general consensus is that Anatolian, Hittite, and so forth is the most archaic branch of Indo-European, this approach concludes that the original home must be Anatolia, around 6,500 BC or 8,500 before present. The assumption then is that the Indo-European languages spread in two major directions, reaching southeastern Europe by about 4,500 BC and South Asia by about 2,500 BC, as shown in map on 158. There are various problems with this approach. Questions have been raised about the general statistical approach. There are also methodological issues, especially the problem of distinguishing between contact-induced and inherited similarities. The problem is that these can make for different chronological estimates. A discussion in Dea Chronica journal shows that similar problems are found for Austronesian. I'm focusing here on, first of all, the methodological argument, namely that the most archaic area must be the homeland, and secondly, on problems with linguistic paleontology. Let me start with the idea that the most archaic area must be the homeland, slide 168 and following. Consider the English word rather, which in American English is rather. Now, English speakers might often think that English is more archaic, but actually the pronunciation rather is the older pronunciation. This can be seen especially with the final R, which still is there in English spelling, even though it's not pronounced in British English. So we see the British English, of course, is rather. So this shows that in this case, the more archaic feature is not found in the homeland, but rather in what we might call colonial territory. But there are also other possibilities. So if we look at Latin videre, you see Italian vedere retains its D, whereas French and Spanish, farther removed from the homeland, have lost it. So if we look at this, we can see that in some cases, the homeland preserves archaisms, in others, it doesn't. The conclusion must be that archaisms are not a reliable criterion, one way or the other. So an important pillar of this approach collapses. Now next turn to linguistic paleontology in two parts. First, there's the question of agriculture. The idea that the Indo-European languages spread along the spread of agriculture. Now, if this had in fact taken place, we would expect there to be also agricultural vocabulary spreading along with this, especially words for field, plow, sow, and grain. Now, Hittite words for this are given in slide 181. Of these, just two words, sow, sia, and one word for attributed to barley, L1, can have possibly cognates in other Indo-European languages. But there are problems. So let's first look at the evidence. So has cognates in Latin sedere, Old Irish Silai, Gothic sand, Lithuanian city. And barley has cognates in Sanskrit yava, grain or barley, Western yava, grain, Lithuanian yavai, grain, Greek zia, meaning spelt, an ancient grain. What's shared basically for the word for barley in the non-Anatolian language is that the word means not barley so much, but grain in general. Further, the word for sow in Hittite, sia, also can mean to scatter. And that's the only meaning for Sanskrit sai or si, as in siati, to scatter. Greek has, for the word meaning sow, it has the word spero. Sanskrit uses the root vap, to carry in the root kat, all of which mean scatter. So we can conclude that the different groups of Indo-European languages recruited different words meaning scatter to designate sowing once it was introduced. But we cannot assume that the word was inherited from the proto-language. As far as the word for barley is concerned, as we saw, outside of Anatolian, the general meaning is grain. And in Hittite, L1, which has been linked to yava and so forth, probably refers not to barley, but to a kind of lentil. So the conclusion must be, and I'm now on page and slide 191, there is no lexical evidence for a linguistic and agricultural spread out of India, meaning there is no evidence that that agriculture spread of Anatolia together with Indo-European languages. The second part of linguistic paleontology concerns the issue of the word for horse. How can we accommodate the words for horse under the Anatolian hypothesis? We are now on slide 195. What would have been the use of a word for horse, wild or domesticated, in 7th millennium Anatolia? Wild horses had gone extinct in Anatolia by the end of the Paleolithic, around 10,000 BC, so safely before the time that people reconstruct claim that Indo-European was spoken in the area. Further, outside the Eurasian steppes, words for horse can only refer to domesticated horses, because horses were only domesticated in the steppes. Further, horses had not been domesticated anywhere before the early 4th millennium BC, by which time, according to Atkinson et al., the Indo-Europeans were still far removed from the steppes, as can be seen by slide 200. So under the Atkinson account, the Indo-Europeans reached the steppes as late, in fact, as late as the 1st millennium AD, way after the domestication of horses. Now, Atkinson et al., once being made aware of these problems, tried to solve the issue by various assumptions. One of them is that they've been borrowing across Indo-European languages. Another one is that the word for horse originally meant something different and was secondarily used to refer to horses once they were domesticated. Problems with this are, first of all, as far as borrowing is concerned, if this was made between the early Indo-European languages, one would expect outcomes such as, for instance, Greek asouos, Latin asovus, Proto-Slovene atsuma, rather than hippos and equus, which look very, very different. A salvage attempt was made that the borrowing was made when Indo-European languages had not yet been highly differentiated. But this requires a dubious, self-serving assumption that there was virtually no change during the 3,000 years between the Anatolian homeland and horse domestication, versus rapid and massive change in the next 2,500 years, as illustrated in slide 213. As far as the other idea is concerned, I'll just quickly go over this. It's a question, what would have been the original meaning? It couldn't have been donkey, the other major domesticated equid, because donkeys were domesticated only in the 4th millennium and were domesticated really in Africa, and there were no wild donkeys in Anatolia or in Europe, which could have been used as a starting point for the word, which became the word for horse. So equus could not even have referred to donkeys. So the claim that equus originally meant something different was secondarily used to refer to horses is a mere self-serving speculation. And we can conclude that the Anatolian hypothesis is incompatible with the evidence of linguistic paleontology and archaeology, and for that reason alone is questionable. By contrast, the steppe hypothesis is highly compatible with linguistic paleontology and archaeology, and therefore is the best account currently available. A brief look at genomics and Indo-European. I skipped some of the early things because I think I'm running out of time, and I turned directly to the ancient DNA revolution. It was the decipherment of ancient DNA that really brought about a major change in the way we can handle prehistory. And based on this kind of evidence, several genomic layers have been distinguished for Europe. Early phase of ancient hunter-gatherers, dark-skinned, blue eyes, certainly not looking Nordic like the Nazis would have believed. Ancient North Eurasian with surprising affiliation to Native Americans. Neolithic farmers coming in somewhat later. And then a steppe migration around 2500 BC. Based on Y DNA, that is male DNA, with two subtypes R1A and R1B. This was announced with great fanfare and with focus on Y DNA, suggesting a male-dominant invasion. So even scholarly publications refer to this as a massive migration from the steppes. And this slide 237 shows you one way of depicting this. And then we have even more violent interpretations that the spread was not massive, or not just massive, but was violent and male-dominated, of course. But we do find evidence of a more limited sort of a spread of empty DNA out of the steppes. As you can see in slide 239, migration which peters out toward the west. There's some further evidence requiring some consideration. First of all, there is evidence for two male-biased migrations from the steppes, one to the south and one to the north of Europe. But in addition, there are more recent additions which show that the same area of Central Asia, Asian steppes, there was movement to Central Asia or Eastern Central Asia from there and to South Asia. Here is the development into Central Asia from leading to Tocharian at the bottom of slide 243. And this is the most recent work which shows a migration into South Asia. So the ancient evidence seems to confirm a linguistic steppe hypothesis. But even there, we have to be careful. First of all, the Mycenaean Greece evidence is not so clear. The situation is similar for Anatolia. And there may have been more migrations based on more than the two proposed by Schreiner. At any rate, there are further complications. The Basque area has a maximum frequency of R1b, which is associated with the steppes, but Basque is not Indo-European. The same holds true for the Etruscans. They too had genomic steppe ancestry, but their language was not Indo-European. This suggests that maybe the steppe people were not linguistically homogeneous as commonly assumed, but that they were heterogeneous. Support for this would come from later migrations of the steppes, such as that of the Huns, who were multilingual, multi-ethnic, and included among them also Goths and Iranians. So the conclusion must be that in spite of such remaining concerns, the account that best conforms to the evidence of linguistic paleontology and archaeology is the steppe hypothesis on slide 258 going to 259. That is a centrifugal movement of Indo-European speakers on the Eurasian steppes, where they acquired domesticated horses and later the horse and chariot culture with horse burials. Recent genomic evidence is compatible with this account with, of course, certain reservations. And the problems remain, including the question whether the Eurasian steppes and the migrants from that area were linguistically homogeneous or heterogeneous. At any rate, the account is cold comfort to Nordic supremacists who would like to believe that their homeland was in the extreme north of Europe. But a theory that doesn't satisfy extreme nationalist or ideological movements can't be all bad. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah, just a moment. I'm just coming back. Yes, wonderful, wonderful talk, Dr. Hans. Now I request the participants to ask their questions or suggestions or discussion.
Okay, well, yeah. Any questions?
Yes, sir. Yes, Kajal Kumari, please ask your question.
Yeah. Go ahead. You're muted, Kajal Kumari. Oh, okay.
You want to put it in chat? Have you put it in chat? Yeah, Vishal, you can unmute and ask, please.
Okay, am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, thank you. So, with the recent genetic studies on the horse genomes of the bowtie culture, and as well as the human genomes of the bowtie culture, which suggest a non-Indo-European genetic origin for that group, much more shifted towards the ancient North Eurasians and the more East Asian shifted peoples of the old Tarim Basin, as well as the lack of horses in the Yamnaya culture. How can this be like reconciled? Of course, the steppe hypothesis is certainly correct from a genetic standpoint, but how can this? How can the lack of horses in the Yamna horizon proper, alongside the what's it called? Alongside the domestication in a non-genetically Indo-European area, how can this be reconciled with the Kogan hypothesis?
Well, yeah, I mean, the bowtie horses, that strain of horses may not be the ancestry for the horses which spread in Western Eurasia. And there are still some questions precisely where that strain came from. But the recent studies which raise issues of that sort still all agree that the domestication started in that general area, that's in the Eurasian steppes, and spread from there. So the point then is that still various other details need to be worked out. And of course, in a short talk like that, I could not possibly talk about all these details.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, Niranjan, you can ask your question.
Yeah, thank you very much, Professor Hock, for wonderful and updated views of whatever you have been trying to say so many years. I just was wondering. You said that when the Indo-European started, when they started, they were already a heterogeneous group.
They were what?
They were already a heterogeneous group.
Well, the evidence, the genomic evidence of Basque and Etruscan suggests that, contrary to what people have assumed, the steppe DNA that people have identified is not necessarily linked to one linguistic group. So it may have been that whatever people were living in that area of the steppes and migrated from there were linguistically heterogeneous, belonging to not just one language family. This is not surprising. It's a large area, and we know that language and genetic identity don't necessarily have to agree. So there's a best an indirect link between them. So that means that we have to consider the homeland issue of Indo-European in that light, namely that it may be that the Indo-Europeans migrated together with members of other linguistic families.
Which means that genetic evidence is greater than the linguistic evidence. Does it imply that?
Well, the genetic evidence points to a migration of a certain sort, which coincides in terms of time and origin, more or less, with the linguistic evidence and the archaeological evidence of a migration of Indo-European languages out of the steppes. But it also has to include the idea that there were other people who were in that area as well, and that these migrated too. And the issue which I think one has to keep in mind then is that if this was true about migrations to the west, to the western of Eurasia, it could have been the case into other areas of Eurasia as well. So this is something which, as to my knowledge, has not been sufficiently considered, and does raise important questions, or at least a caveat, about jumping to conclusions that all of those people who are identified as belonging to these two varieties of DNA were Indo-European speakers. Some may have not been.
Thank you, sir.
Can I get in?
Yeah.
Am I audible?
Yes, please.
Okay,
yes.
sir. Good evening, sir. My name is Ganesh.
Yeah,
This is second time. First time I met you in Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi. This is second time I am meeting you virtually. First time I met you physically in front of you, miss. The
Ganesh,
point why I am asked.
Ganesh,
Yes, ma'am.
you can come on video if you like. We would like to see people also.
Ma'am. The point is that the place where I am sitting, it's BSNL network, ma'am. So
Okay,
if I
you're
move here and there, yes, ma'am. The
Okay.
point is that what I am curious to ask is, I know sir is a great or renowned historical linguist. My query is that I am Marathi speaker. I am from Maharashtra, India. I am Marathi speaker.
Yeah.
I have studied in Deccan College as well. And the point is that, sir, I happened to saw one Turkish web series. Its name was Osman, Kurulus Osman or Ertugrul Ghazi. In that web series, I found, I'm talking from linguistics perspective, or linguistic as a trace point to understand the historical footprints of trespass of identification whether the language is Indian that is Marathi language has any correlation in between Turkish and Marathi. How I am giving the evidence, sir? The one evidence is that Bak Mala. This is the complete sentence in Turkish language. That means see me in English, and Marathi also same pronunciation, little change. That is Bag Mala. Like this, there are many words, sir. So can we consider that it could be the possible trace, footprints that the Turkish people or invader might have come to India, or with the help of as a invader with the help of horse, because horse you gave one nice this one anecdote to understand the historical journey or whatever migration journey.
Yeah, if you take the larger picture, not just focusing on a few words and expressions here and there, then Turkish belongs to a very different language family from Indo-European. It also came out of Central Asia, but at a much later time. There will be some lexical similarities between Turkish and Marathi, and also Hindi and Urdu and so forth. Largely
Yes,
because of the influence coming out of through the various Muslim rulers who came from Central Asia and Iran, and brought with them words which were of Turkish and Arabic influence, origin, and so forth. So there would be some indirect links, but nothing direct. No.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yes, any more questions or clarifications? Sir, in fact, we can see the chat box, sir. It is full of compliments more than clarifications, sir.
Okay.
Yeah. I think Aditi also raised the hand. Is she still there?
Yes, I think she's there.
Aditi, you can unmute, and we have another two who have raised their hands.
Yes, please unmute and ask your questions, or if you
Yeah.
have any clarifications.
Ritu, you can unmute.
Yeah.
Ruta, sorry.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Hello. Hello, Professor Hock. Yeah. So I missed a major chunk of your presentation because of monsoon-related issues here, but I understood it correctly that you meant to say that genetic and linguistic that is facts don't always overlap, but in this case, it is like it happens to the genetic evidence and linguistic evidence happens to coincide. Am I correct? I was wondering. My question was, how do we relate this to more recent migrations, like in the Indian subcontinent? Is genetic evidence at all feasible then, considering language context issues in language context for more recent? We have that was my question.
Yeah, the issue of the relationship between language and genetic background and so forth in South Asia and India is a very complex one. It has been gone over at various times with very different results, largely based on modern DNA. And modern DNA doesn't always give you reliable insights about ancient times. The picture may change as people are finding more and more ingenious ways of extracting ancient DNA, even in countries and areas such as South Asia, where you have so much of the DNA disintegrates because of the climate. But I have not seen anything recent about South Asia except for the extreme northwest, which where of course there is a relatively cold climate and ancient DNA is there was some extraction of a skeleton of the Indus civilization in a site in UP, but that seems to link that particular person to South India genetically, but it says nothing about language, unfortunately. We don't know whether this was a Dravidian speaker or not, but at any rate, that's the one recent measurement of ancient DNA which I'm aware of. But this is a fast-moving field, and there may be further progress as time goes on. I hope I've answered your question.
Thank you. I remember reading a paper. Yeah. I remember reading a paper by Vagish Narasimhan about this Indus Valley civilization and ANI, and that in that paper some claims were made about the spread of languages. So I was just wondering if it was at all possible to relate it to more recent issues of language contact. But yeah,
the
of course,
problem is the problem is that the Indus symbols or script has not been successfully deciphered. I'm not meaning by this that there have been no attempts at decipherment. There have been lots of decipherment attempts, but none of these agree with each other. And there are inherent problems actually in deciphering texts of this sort, which are very, very short. So that you basically don't have large text to test hypotheses about what language might be involved against a larger data sample. So until we have some successful, generally accepted decipherment of those symbols of that script, we can't really say what language was spoken by the Indus civilization. And given the large distribution of the Indus civilization, large geographical distribution, it's perfectly possible that there was more than one language.
Yes. Thank you, sir. I think we can take two questions from Sameer and Supriya Chauhan. Samir, kindly unmute and please ask your question.
Maybe you need to unmute.
Samir, please unmute.
Okay, there we are. Okay, yes. Yes. Ask your question, please.
Samir, you have to unmute.
Signal is not problem.
Okay, okay. Supriya
right.
Chauhan.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello, ma'am.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Hello, Professor Hock. Thank you so much for such an enlightening session. We have very less session like this, which are on Indo-European and historical linguists, since very less historical linguists are left. Sir, I would like to ask, what are some recent trends that can be worked upon in terms of Indo-European languages and more specifically Indo-Aryan languages?
Yes, could you rephrase your question again? I'm not sure I completely got it.
Sir, am I audible? Hello?
Yes. So,
Yeah.
could you rephrase, Supriya Chauhan, could you rephrase your
Hello, sir. Am I audible now?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Sir, my question is not related to this session. Actually, it's a very general question that I'm a research scholar of linguistics, working in historical linguistics in Banaras Hindu University.
Yeah.
I would like to know some recent trends on which Indo-European and more specifically Indo-Aryan can be worked upon. What could be the areas that I should move in?
Yeah. Doing comparative Indo-European linguistics is a difficult enterprise because you have to know not just Sanskrit, but Avestan, Greek, ancient Greek, Latin, various Germanic languages, and so forth. It's a huge enterprise, and that's not easy to accomplish. So I think staying within the Indo-Aryan context would be easier. One thing which I have proposed to a number of students and researchers in India is that a kind of less ambitious project would be starting with Grierson's Linguistic Survey of India, which is now about 100 years old. So 4 generations of speakers have passed, and to see focus on a particular language and to see what is found in that language nowadays. How much change has taken place between that time and the present. That is something which can be done relatively easily. In some cases, you may not come up with anything interesting, but I think if you look around enough, you're bound to find something interesting which can lead to a nice research project.
Okay, sir. Sir, if by any chance I can email you for more insight.
Sure, I appreciate it. Yes.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. From where I would like to get your email ID.
Supriya, you can contact us. We will give you. No problem.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir, once again.
Okay.
So just a minute. Our principal has joined. So I'm just looking at this. And Dr. Lavanya, can you see our principal? In the meantime, we'll take the last question. So, yeah, Mahidas Bhattacharya, I think you can unmute and ask your question.
Yes.
I think I can't see Swathi ma'am.
Yeah.
So, am I audible to you?
Yes, now you are. Yes. Mm-hmm.
So thank you for this excellent presentation. I have 2 queries from you. One is that how do you feel that the migration was in one dimension only? Is it possible in one dimension, or there is some migration was there in different ways, different movement was there? This is one query from your studies. Another question is there, what will be the position of Indo-Iranian and in case of Mittani Indian concept as it is introduced in historical linguistics? And how do you put these two in this journey of migration? Can I get some primary ideas from you, sir?
Okay, let me try to answer that. There is no doubt that beyond these broad outlines of a centrifugal movement out of Central Asia, there must have been other kind of movements. But if we don't have evidence for them, then we can't really say anything about them. Now, the case of the Mittani is interesting because there have been claims that they were speakers of an early form of Indo-Aryan rather than Indo-Iranian. If that's the case, it would require the assumption that some branch of the people who settled in South Asia either moved from there after having settled there westward into present-day Anatolia, or that they branched off earlier. This is something which I think is still a question of debate. I have looked at the linguistic evidence, and I'm not fully convinced that it has to be Indo-Aryan. It could be an early form of Indo-Iranian. But many people don't agree with my view on this, so I should mention that. It's a question, therefore, of some controversy. At any rate, yeah, there clearly must have been westward migrations. We know later on, of course, people moved out of South Asia. So the so-called gypsies, or the Roma, moved out from South Asia. We know that there are also Indo-Aryan languages up in the Kazakhstan area and so forth, again migrating out. So there have been migrations in the opposite direction. That's very clear. And of course, we know that nowadays South Asians are found all over the world. So, you know, the fact that migrations at one time went in one direction does not preclude the possibility of there being migrations in opposite directions at another time. I hope I've answered.
Can I one query, madam? Can I do one query?
Yeah. Okay.
You have to make it quick.
Say whether these genomic studies can help us to determine the zigzag movement of the people of the earlier days. Can you do that?
Well, ancient DNA goes only so far. We have to have evidence. We have to have materials from which ancient DNA can be extracted, and that, you know, depends very much on circumstances beyond our control. One thing we do know is that in areas like South Asia, especially peninsular India, DNA does not preserve very well, and therefore research on ancient DNA becomes very difficult. Or at most, you know, ancient DNA may mean not 3000 BC or 2000 BC, but something like 780 or something like that. So we can't necessarily reach the same time horizon, and that makes comparison often very hard.
Thank you, sir. And thank the Osmania University's departments. Thanks on behalf of me from Jadavpur University.
I think there are no more questions, Swathi ma'am.
Yeah. So Wonderful, wonderful queries. I think a lot of very good questions we have generated also. So, Indra ma'am is there. I request
Yeah, now I request Professor Indira ma'am to propose vote of thanks. But before that, I request all the participants to kindly on your videos so that we can have a group photo screenshots with screenshots. Okay. Please kindly on your videos.
as many as possible. And also, we are sharing the Google link to fill the feedback form and also for e-certificate in the chat box. So kindly fill that.
Yes. Yes, ma'am. Welcome,
Yeah,
ma'am.
hello. So our principal sir is here, sir. This
Okay,
is
ma'am.
Professor Talat Sultana ma'am, Saida Sultana ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am, for in spite of your busy schedule for joining us.
Thank you so much. A very good evening to all of you. And I wish you all the best that you have organized a very good webinar. And all the, I think most of the students from all over the world, I think they have attended. So uh, I wish for your grand success to the head department of linguistic, Dr. Swathi Madam, and Head Department of Archaeology, Dr. Professor Lavanya Madam, and all the team members and all the students. A very happy webinar I have seen that, and I have listened. The speaker also, he has shown the slides. It was very nice, and I think Swati Madam was handling the slides. I have opened that camera and this all this thing, but you did not recognize the names and all this thing. I mean,
I'm so sorry, ma'am.
one thing, Ramesh sir also is there. So good evening, sir. Good evening. All the best.
Good evening, ma'am. Good evening.
Congratulations for your successful webinar. Uh, uh, thank you so much for
Thank you so much,
inviting
ma'am.
me.
Thank you so much for joining.
So I have to attend another function. So I am in hurry. So thank you so much. Okay. Right.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay. Now I'll just leave the meeting.
No problem, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay.
Well, let me add my voice and thank you for listening to my talk and inviting me, and for all the interesting questions which were posed. I hope you enjoyed my talk.
Yeah. Now I request Professor Indira ma'am to kindly propose vote of thanks.
Good morning and good evening to all, especially to the speaker and chief guest, Professor Saida Talat Sultana ma'am, Principal of Arts and Social Sciences, College of University. Then we have a guest of honor, Professor Satish Chandra Sir, Dean Faculty of Social Sciences. Uh, so, inviting all them, and we today's speaker who enlightened us with a very enlightening topic, that is migrations, archaeology, genomics, and Indo-European prehistory. So when we are thinking about the migrations from earliest period, when comparing to the two geographies like Indo and European, sir, Hans Henrich Hook, sir, has very much enlightened us with this a very interrelated topic globally, and you have given us a kind of very deep micro level knowledge so that we can understand how migrations were taking up during since the ages, and how archaeology and genomics are helping in understanding through linguistics and all. So we have the linguistic department has taken this initiative. We are very grateful on behalf of the history and archaeology department and to Dr.C.S. Swathi ma'am. We are thankful for the same. And we are also grateful to our history head madam, who is also head to the archaeology department. Handling both the departments is really a very dynamic and a very this one. They should have that kind of dynamism to understand the subjects which are interlinked. So we are on this occasion by inviting such an enlightened speaker, Sir Henrich Hook, sir. We remain grateful to you for giving us this kind of enlightened lecture on very interlinked topics. You have given with the approaches migrations, archaeology and genomics, specialized on this Indo-European prehistory. It's really helped us to understand the prehistoric period. So we had number of questions also from different participants and all. We are grateful to them for joining and for participating with active participation with the very genuine questions and all. So we are all grateful to the participants. We are grateful to archaeology department, to all the faculty staff, Shivanand, Yalala and Jayashri, and all other faculty from history, Dr. Ramesh and all other faculty members. And we are especially thanks and we are grateful to linguistic department, the chairperson, Susheel Kumar, Balu Naik sir, and all other faculty from linguistics. So to one and all, we are great thankful. Our thanks goes to one and all. And sir, we look forward for such innovative uh, thoughts and innovative knowledge on such deep understanding of the subject on this kind of with more further lectures and all. So keeping this that we see further also we can hear you. With this we would like to thank you for this thoughts. Thanks to one and all.
Thank you, ma'am. Now I request Dr. C.S. Swathi ma'am to give concluding remarks and say about the feedback also.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Lavanya. So it was a wonderful session. So thank you so much, Professor Hans Henrich Hock. This is first time we are trying this kind of multidisciplinary kind of a webinar, and I'm so glad that we have participants from all over India and our 3 departments students also I can see. So it is a wonderful opportunity, and also I think one of the student asked like they want to do research in this area and it is not their subject. So that kind of thought-provoking thing we wanted to bring in, and I'm so glad that we could bring in. And I'm also seeing that there are a lot of good feedback on the chat box also. So thank you so much, sir, once again. And I think one thing I should tell our participants, it is like sir has actually I approached sir 1 year back, and then after that we had some gap and all that, and recently sir mailed back to me. So thank you so much, sir. You have been very thoughtful, and immediately we have arranged this program because we were fortunate that you have got back to us. So, and I thank my other collaborating departments, Dr. Lavanya from history and other members from archaeology, our coordinators, all of them, they have played such a wonderful role. And on my department, my personal behalf, I thank my colleagues, Dr.Susheel Kumar and Dr. Balu, and our students who have participated here. And special thanks to Mr. Ravi, who has helped us in all this net issues and all that. So thank you all once again for joining, and we look forward to such webinars in future also. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you again. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you one and all. So we are going to end this webinar. See you all in next international webinar again.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir.